So if you didn't see this or hear about it, Kyrie Irving talking about the performance of Karl Anthony Towns back in game number 4. Kyrie Irving said, despite the unfair criticism that he's received, this is a quote, despite the unfair criticism that he's received, he's a great player. Close quote. All right, so let's discuss the question. The Maverick guard, Kyrie Irving, saying that Karl Anthony Towns of Minnesota basketball team has received unfair criticism. Is that based in any reality? Is it any reality at all? So I've got Tony Award, Centaur, and Hogwarts. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to have a fire-breathing dragon pop up right here in the Magic Radio box, a fire-breathing dragon. So to answer the question, was the criticism of Karl Anthony Towns unfair? According to Kyrie Irving, it was. So Kyrie Irving has long been against the cartel of basketball. His soundtrack is Rage Against the Machine, and like many of his commentaries over the years, Kyrie Irving is misguided on this one also. Misguided on this one. It is ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, we will give Kyrie Irving a Tony Award for his latest bad take, and I'll tell you why. Because much like the Broadway musical, it's all about the Jersey Boys. That is my theory. All right, that's my theory on Kyrie Irving, Uncle Drew, and his commentary, because Kyrie Irving and Karl Anthony Towns both are kids that grew up in northern New Jersey. They were both drafted number 1 overall. Number 1! They grew up in towns separated by about 20 miles as the crow flies. So they've lived similar lives. They're in the same demographic in terms of 4 years apart or so, 4 or 5 years apart. But the level of scrutiny, and maybe I'm crazy, what do I know? I just do the overnight show. But the level of scrutiny that an elite NBA player faces is always going to be high, right? It's always going to be high, especially in the playoffs. But nobody's being unfair. Karl Anthony Towns was historically horrible for 3 games in a row in the Western Finals. That is not my opinion. That is fact. It's on the public record. It's on the interweb how bad Karl Anthony Towns was. Then he showed up. He was late to the party, but he looked wonderful in Game 4. Mazel tov. He looked great. But you play well. It's not that hard. This is not solving big-time problems in the world. You play well, and they will kiss your tushy. You play poorly, and they will give you a noogie. That's what they will do. A metaphorical noogie, a knuckle right to the head, right there. All right, now, page 2. So speaking of Karl Anthony Towns, Minnesota has a shovel in their hand right now. I don't know if you know this or not. They have a shovel in their hand, and they are trying to dig their way out of a rather sizable hole that they created by being unable to close games against the Dallas basketball team. And while the Mavericks are sitting pretty and Kyrie Irving's talking about just another game, and for the Wolves it's a Super Bowl, but if Minnesota doesn't make history, if they do lose and go down to defeat here, what happens next? Without a doubt, you and I both know, every man, woman, and child knows that what happens next is the vultures come out. They start circling the rotting carcass of the team. And Karl Anthony Towns, even though he is maddeningly inconsistent, you just pull your hair out, the inconsistencies of Karl Anthony Towns, he is still on the wish list of teams looking to shuffle the deck. So what are the odds? All right, what are the odds that the Minnesota basketball team would end up trading Karl Anthony Towns after the playoffs? So the MALLER Sportsbook odds on Kitty Cat being traded, I have it at plus 150. That is a 40% chance. That implies a 40% chance that Towns will go out of town from the Minnesota basketball team, and here's why. To me, when I analyze what's going to happen in the dimension where the Wolves lose, this comes down to the Centaur. Half man, half horse. Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, A-Rod is in a legal brouhaha. It is a battle for the purse strings of the Wolves. He's fighting Glenn Taylor, who foolishly worked out an agreement to sell the Minnesota Timberwolves and then realized the team was worth a hell of a lot more money than he was getting for the team. So he said, wait a minute, I don't want to sell the team anymore. But A-Rod's like, hey, we've got a deal. A deal's a deal. We came up with the money. We get the team. So it's up to the legal system. It's up to attorneys to figure out what's going to happen and arbitration and all that stuff. But the chatter that we hear is that if A-Rod wins the team, he is going to be a slumlord owner. All right? He is going to run on a bare-bones budget because A-Rod doesn't actually have the money to run a professional sports franchise properly. And so what he's going to do, and this according to the word on the street, is that A-Rod is going to just use the money that would have gone to players and pocket the extra money, which, you know, a lot of people would do the same thing, but you don't want your owner of your team to do that. Now, Glenn Taylor, he's invested more money recently. I assume if he got the team back, he would just sell it to somebody else who would have deeper pockets than A-Rod. But if A-Rod gets the Timberwolves, it's not only Karl Anthony Towns. You're going to see a mass exodus of big money players. They'll repackage Rudy Gobert and get rid of a bunch of those guys. All right, last word here. By request, I am told it is time now for our obligatory portion of the Maller monologue about the People's team, the most interesting team in the entire NBA. Now, how do I know that? Anytime the Clippers do anything, I don't have to look it up. I don't even have to pay attention because I'll have 85 people tell me, "Oh, did you see what they did? Oh, that's such a bad move." Okay. Like that loser Tom Brady roast fan, Matt. All his teams have left. Every one of his teams has relocated. You know that? Every one of his teams has relocated. Yeah. Anyway, the People's team, the Clippers. Big coaching news here. The Clippers have locked up Ty Lue. He's staying around 5 years, $70 million, one report said. So Ty Lue keeping his job as coach of the Clippers. Is this a big deal, a little deal, or no deal for the Clippers? So financially, and for Ty Lue, it's a massive amount of money. They're moving into the Taj Mahal, greatest arena in the history of the world. That'll be happening next NBA season for the People's team. But in reality, okay, in terms of wins and losses, as the late Tony Phillips told me, old baseball player, wins and losses, wins and blankety-blank losses. This is a little deal. It's not no deal. It's not no deal. It's a little deal. And while I do think Ty Lue is pretty good at what he does, I also am of the belief NBA coaching can only really hurt you and can't help you that much. And it's the players, stupid. Right? It's the player. My evidence on this. Let me give you my evidence. I'm going to make my elevator pitch why I believe that to be true. I think what's left in the playoffs is a great example. You've got 3 teams left. Does anyone think the Dallas Mavericks are in the position they're in because of the brilliant coaching of Jason Kidd? How about let him play Joe Mazzulla in Boston? You talk about getting a sweetheart deal. The other coach was stooping one of the assistants for the Celtics, so Joe Mazzulla gets promoted, and now he's about to win a championship. But do you think Joe Mazzulla is the reason why the Celtics are where they are? And how about Chris Finch, who's injured and has to sit behind the Minnesota bench? Are those all great coaches? Methinks not so much. And so Ty Lue, good tactician, solid with the media, right? Good soundbite, knows how to talk in soundbites. Nevertheless, if I'm Steve Ballmer, if I'm the richest fat cat owner in the entire world of the NBA, you know what I do? If I'm Ballmer, I say, I don't really need Ty Lue. I'm going to go over to Hogwarts for my next coach. I am going to pay someone, I'm not sure who, at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I'm going to get one of those protection spells because it doesn't matter. You could have Phil Jackson in his prime, Red Auerbach, the great Bill Fitch, Hall of Fame, any of those guys. Kawhi Leonard goes into an injury tent and hibernates every postseason. Every postseason, and there's a bunch of media lapdogs that slobber all over and say, oh, it's not his fault, everything will be fine. So get one of those dumb protection spells, and it doesn't. You can hire my fat ass as coach, and the Clippers would win if Kawhi's healthy. Everyone knows they've got the top team if Kawhi's healthy. He's never healthy. That's the fatal flaw in the people's team. So Ty Lue staying as coach doesn't move the needle at all. At least it's not Doc Rivers, right? Could have been worse. Could have been Doc Rivers coming back to coach. Oh, he's got a job, not a good one, in Wisconsin.